Gabriel Sousa gazed at the familiar landscape through the bus window as it wound its way along the winding roads to Vila Nova. The mist-covered mountains and the river reflecting the overcast sky brought back long-buried memories. After 10 years away, returning to his hometown was a mix of nostalgia and apprehension. He carried with him a small suitcase and a heavy past he hoped to leave behind. Upon getting off at the small station, he noticed that little had changed. The cobblestone streets, the colonial-style houses, and the church bell marking the hours remained almost untouched by time. But something in the air felt different, a subtle sense of unease he couldn't quite define. As he walked toward his family's old house, Gabriel felt curious stares from the townspeople, but no one greeted him. The doors and windows were ajar, as if the entire town was silently watching him. When he arrived, he found the house dusty, but exactly as he remembered it. Stepping inside, the creaking door echoed through the empty corridors, sending a shiver down his spine. That night, while trying to sleep, shadows danced on the walls of his room, cast by the dim light of the lamp. He thought it was a product of fatigue, but a darker silhouette caught his attention, remaining still in the corner. Gabriel blinked, and the shadow vanished. With his heart racing, he questioned whether coming back had been the right decision. The next day, Gabriel woke up early, still disturbed by the previous night's events. He decided to explore the town, hoping to alleviate the unease consuming him. The streets of Vila Nova were bustling, but a strange atmosphere lingered in the air. The townspeople seemed distant, avoiding eye contact and lengthy conversations. While walking through the central square, a shadow flitted quickly across his vision. He turned abruptly, but saw no one except for a black cat crossing the street. Trying to ignore the uncomfortable feeling, he headed to the old cafe he used to frequent in his youth. Upon entering, he was enveloped by the familiar aroma of freshly brewed coffee and homemade cakes. He sat by the window, watching the activity outside. Suddenly, he noticed an indistinct figure reflected in the glass, standing behind him. His heart raced. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. "Gabriel, is that you?" A soft feminine voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to find Isabela Martins, a childhood friend, smiling in surprise. "Isabela, long time no see," he exclaimed, rising to greet her. They sat down and began to chat animatedly. Isabela revealed that she was now an investigative journalist and mentioned she was working on a piece about strange events in the town. Gabriel, hesitant, shared his recent experiences with the shadows. To his relief, Isabela did not judge him. "You're not the only one noticing strange things," she said seriously. "Something is happening in Vila Nova, and I don't think it's a coincidence." After their conversation at the cafe, Gabriel and Isabela decided to join forces to understand the strange occurrences happening in Vila Nova. They met at the municipal library, an old building filled with dusty archives and shelves that seemed to reach the ceiling. As they sifted through old newspapers and police records, they discovered a troubling pattern. Over the past 5 years, there had been a significant increase in missing persons and unexplained deaths in the town. "Look at this case," Isabela said, pointing to an article about a young man who mysteriously disappeared. He vanished 3 years ago, and the case was never solved. Gabriel felt a chill run down his spine. The shadows that haunted him seemed connected to these events. Suddenly, a soft whisper echoed in his ear, indistinct words he couldn't fully comprehend. "Did you hear that?" he asked, looking around. "What?" Isabela replied, glancing up from the papers. "A whisper, as if someone was speaking to me," Gabriel murmured. Isabela studied him closely. "Maybe it's the shadows trying to communicate." He closed his eyes, trying to concentrate. Fragmented visions flooded his mind. A foggy forest, an ancient bridge, and a clock striking midnight. He opened his eyes, panting. I think they're showing me important places. Isabela nodded. My sister disappeared near the forest north of the town. It could be a coincidence, but maybe we should start there. Determined to follow the clues, they decided to visit the sites of the occurrences, hoping Gabriel could decipher the shadow's messages and find answers to the mysteries surrounding Vila Nova. Gabriel and Isabela walked silently along the trail leading to the forest north of Vila Nova. The tall trees formed a closed canopy, filtering sunlight and creating a play of shadows on the leaf-covered ground. As they advanced, Gabriel felt a strange familiarity with the place. Fragments of memory surfaced in his mind, distant laughter, running among the trees, and an anxiety he couldn't explain. "I've been here before," Gabriel murmured, stopping beside a tree marked with a symbol carved into its bark. This symbol, it seems so familiar. Isabela stepped closer to observe. My sister mentioned something similar in her journal, she said, surprised. She believed these symbols were linked to ancient legends of the town. Suddenly, a shadow darted quickly between the trees, catching Gabriel's attention. Without thinking, he followed it, leaving Isabela behind. "Gabriel, wait!" she exclaimed, rushing after him. The shadow led him to a forgotten clearing where the remnants of an ancient structure emerged from the vegetation. As he approached, Gabriel was flooded with repressed memories, whispering voices, a feeling of fear, and the image of a group of children playing near the ruins. "This place," he began, his voice trembling. "Something happened here when I was a child." Isabela placed a hand on his shoulder. "We need to understand what it was," she asserted. Together, they explored the area and found objects buried in the ground. Old toys, faded photographs, and unfinished letters. They realized that the victims had connections to that place, and possibly to events that occurred years ago. The shadows seemed to guide them, revealing that their pasts were intertwined in ways they never imagined. The day after the discovery in the clearing, Gabriel and Isabela met at the cafe to organize the information they had collected. As they discussed their theories, the door swung open abruptly, and Marcelo Duarte entered the establishment. Elegant and charismatic, the influential local businessman approached their table with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I've heard you've been asking a lot of questions," Marcelo said, his smooth voice hiding a tone of threat. "Something should remain in the past. For everyone's sake." Isabela raised her chin defiantly. "We're just seeking the truth about the disappearances. Surely someone as respected as you would support that." Marcelo narrowed his eyes. "Some truths are dangerous, Miss Martins. It would be wise to leave certain matters alone." After he left, Gabriel felt a knot in his stomach. "He knows more than he's letting on," he remarked. Isabela agreed, concern etched on her face. In the following hours, they faced a series of obstacles. Files that had previously been available in the library mysteriously disappeared. Witnesses who had agreed to speak abruptly refused, claiming fear of reprisals. Anonymous phone calls left threatening messages, and one night, upon returning home, Gabriel found the door ajar and signs that someone had rummaged through his belongings. The shadows around him became more restless, appearing with increasing frequency and intensity. On a stormy night, Gabriel clearly heard a voice whisper, "Time is running out. We need to be more careful," Isabela warned. "But we can't give up now. The souls are counting on us." Determined to press on, they realized they were not only facing supernatural forces, but also the deep-rooted corruption in the town. The journey for truth was becoming increasingly dangerous, but it was also becoming more necessary. Resolute in overcoming the obstacles, Gabriel and Isabela took refuge in his house to plan their next steps. "We need to find concrete evidence against Marcelo," Isabela stated, spreading out the few documents they had managed to gather on the table. Among them, a partially burned receipt caught Gabriel's attention. This logo belongs to the old textile factory on the outskirts of town, he noted. It was closed down years ago. It might be a good place to look, Isabela suggested. Under the cover of darkness, they headed to the abandoned factory. The dilapidated building exuded an air of neglect, but there were signs of recent activity. Unlocked doors, footprints in the dust, and dim lights emanating from some windows. Cautiously, they infiltrated the interior, trying to be as quiet as possible. In a room at the back, they found boxes filled with documents and financial records. "This is gold," Isabela whispered, photographing everything with her phone. Among the papers, they uncovered evidence of human trafficking and child labor exploitation, all directly linked to Marcelo's shell companies. Suddenly, voices echoed down the hallway. Hiding behind old equipment, they overheard a conversation between men discussing cleaning up the area and eliminating risks. Gabriel felt his blood run cold. "We need to get out of here now," he whispered. As they escaped through a side window, the shadows appeared around them, brighter than ever. One pointed to a vehicle parked nearby, revealing the license plate. This could lead us to Marcelo's accomplices, Gabriel realized. Back in the safety of the house, they analyzed the information they had gathered. The gravity of their discoveries confirmed that they were dealing with a dangerous criminal network. Gabriel also found records implicating former associates of his family, suggesting that his parents might have known more than they let on. "This explains why so many people disappeared," Isabela said, her eyes filled with determination. "We have to take this to the authorities, but who can we trust?" Gabriel questioned, aware of the corruption in the town. "I know someone outside who can help us," she replied, "but we need to be quick." Back at the house, Gabriel felt an urgent need to understand his family's involvement in the dark events plaguing Vila Nova. He searched his father's old office, a room that had remained untouched since his death. Among dusty books and financial documents, he found a hidden compartment in the desk drawer. Inside, there was a worn leather journal and a box containing newspaper clippings. As he flipped through the journal, he discovered that his father, Gabriel Sousa, had been investigating Marcelo Duarte for years. The notes detailed suspicious meetings, illegal transactions, and names of influential accomplices in the town. One entry in particular caught his attention. "I've received threats. I can't involve Gabriel, but I must expose the truth." Gabriel's hands trembled as he realized that the accident that killed his father might not have been accidental. The guilt he had carried for years, believing his father's death was the result of an argument between them, now transformed into determination to honor his memory. At the bottom of the box, he found a family necklace, the same one he had seen in the photos of Isabela's sister. "Isabela, you need to see this," he said over the phone. Minutes later, she arrived, breathless. Upon seeing the necklace, tears welled up in her eyes. "It was hers. How did your father get this?" "My father was trying to help," Gabriel replied. "I believe he discovered something he shouldn't have." The shadows appeared around them, more serene than before. One of them, taking on a more defined form, seemed to beckon toward them. "I think they're guiding us to the final truth," Isabela said. "We need to finish what our loved one started," Gabriel asserted, a new flame of purpose in his eyes. With evidence in hand, Gabriel and Isabela knew it was time to expose Marcelo Duarte and put an end to the cycle of corruption and violence in Vila Nova. They decided to take advantage of the town's annual fair, an event that gathered all the residents and local authorities, including Marcelo, who always gave the opening speech. On the day of the fair, the central square was filled with colorful stalls, music, and lively voices. Gabriel and Isabela positioned themselves strategically near the stage, where Isabela set up her equipment to stream live online. Meanwhile, Gabriel distributed copies of the documents to key individuals in the crowd, ensuring that the information spread quickly. When Marcelo stepped onto the stage, he began to speak about progress and unity. However, before he could continue, Gabriel interrupted, climbing the steps with determination. "No more lies, Marcelo," he shouted, holding up an envelope full of evidence. The crowd murmured in confusion. "Gabriel, what do you think you're doing?" Marcelo asked, trying to maintain his composure. "Exposing the truth about you and your crimes," Gabriel replied, projecting the evidence onto an improvised screen. Images of documents, photos of victims, and records of illegal transactions appeared before the incredulous eyes of the onlookers. The shadows emerged around the square, visible only to Marcelo and Gabriel. The air grew thick, and a cold wind swept through the area. Marcelo began to sweat, nervously glancing around. "This is a farce," he shouted, but his voice trembled. Isabela streamed everything live, and the online audience grew rapidly. Townspeople began to question Marcelo loudly, demanding explanations. Pressured, he attempted to flee, but the authorities present, who were not under his influence, apprehended him. "You can't touch me," Marcelo bellowed, but his words fell on deaf ears. The shadows drew closer, and although they were invisible to most, their effect was palpable. Marcelo fell to his knees, defeated by the weight of his crimes and the presence of the souls he had wronged. Gabriel approached him. "This is the justice you tried to evade," he said calmly. With Marcelo in custody, the crowd erupted into heated discussions. The truth had been revealed, and there was no longer a way to hide it. The shadows around them began to fade slowly, indicating that the souls were finally finding their way to peace. Isabela turned off the stream, taking a deep breath. "We did it," she said, looking at Gabriel. He nodded, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. He knew the battle didn't end there, but this was a crucial step toward Vila Nova's redemption. The sun began to set over Vila Nova, casting golden and pink hues on the horizon. The central square, which hours earlier had been the stage for shocking revelations, was now calm. People slowly dispersed, still processing the truth that had come to light. Gabriel and Isabela sat on a bench near the fountain, exhausted but relieved. "I can't believe we did it," Isabela said, gazing at the shimmering reflections of the lights on the water. Gabriel nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "My father would be proud," he replied. "And your sister? I hope she can now rest in peace." The shadows that had once followed them were gradually fading away. One of them, more defined, approached Gabriel. For a moment, he saw the outline of his father's face with a serene smile. "Thank you," the soft voice echoed in his mind. A feeling of warmth enveloped Gabriel, and tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry for not realizing sooner," he whispered. Isabela also had a brief glimpse of her sister, who waved gently before dissipating like morning mist. "She's in a better place now," Isabela said, intertwining her fingers with Gabriel's in a gesture of mutual comfort. The external authorities, alerted by Isabela's broadcast, arrived in town to initiate investigations. Marcelo Duarte and his accomplices were taken into custody, and legal proceedings were initiated. The corruption plaguing Vila Nova began to be dismantled, bringing hope to the residents. In the days that followed, Gabriel and Isabela collaborated with the investigations, providing all the evidence they had collected. The national media extensively covered the case, and the small town became a symbol of resistance and the pursuit of justice. One night, as they walked through the quiet streets, Gabriel remarked, "I never imagined returning to Vila Nova would change my life like this." Isabela smiled. "Sometimes you have to face the shadows to find the light," she reflected. They stopped in front of the church, where the bell rang a soft melody. "What do you plan to do now?" Isabela asked. Gabriel took a deep breath. "I think I'm going to stay." There's a lot to be done here, and I want to help rebuild our town." "I will too," she agreed. "And maybe we can write about it, share a story so others can find courage." The shadows had completely departed, but their legacy would endure as a reminder of the sacrifices made and the importance of facing the truth. Gabriel felt at peace for the first time in years, ready to begin a new chapter in his life, this time without running from the past. Together, they continued walking under the starry sky, knowing that despite the challenges, they were on the right path. Vila Nova was no longer just a town haunted by shadows, but a place of rebirth and hope. The days that followed Marcelo Duarte's downfall were marked by a wave of change in Vila Nova. The revelation of the crimes deeply shook the residents, but also sparked a strong sense of unity and hope. Corrupt authorities were replaced by leaders committed to justice and transparency. Gabriel and Isabela became central figures in this renewal process. Isabela dedicated herself to writing a series of detailed reports, published in regional and national newspapers, narrating the investigation and honoring the memory of the victims. Her words not only informed but also inspired other communities to fight against injustice. Gabriel engaged in community projects, helping to revitalize public spaces and organizing cultural events that reclaimed the town's history and identity. His personal experience became a source of inspiration for many, showing that it is possible to overcome trauma and contribute positively to society. The relationship between Gabriel and Isabela deepened. Sharing challenges and achievements, they found mutual support and a special connection. Together, they explored new horizons, planning initiatives that would benefit Vila Nova even further. On a serene afternoon, they climbed the hill that offered the best view of the town. They sat side by side, watching the sunset paint the sky with shades of orange and pink. "Who would have thought we'd make it this far?" Isabela reflected, smiling. "We've overcome a lot," Gabriel agreed. "But I believe the best is yet to come." Isabela held his hand. "With you by my side, I'm sure of that." As the first stars appeared in the sky, they felt enveloped by a sense of peace and accomplishment. Vila Nova, once steeped in shadows, now shone with the promise of a better future. "We're just getting started," Gabriel said, looking at the illuminated town. Isabela nodded. "And this time, we will write our own story." Together, they descended the hill, ready to embrace the new opportunities that awaited them. The rebirth of Vila Nova was also the rebirth of their own lives, intertwined by fate and strengthened by the courage to face the past and build a bright future.